Good evening. Another beautiful day in Rantoul. And at the end of this first week of Easter, he is risen. He is risen indeed. What a powerful continued statement that goes on for us that carries weight now and always into the future and forever. This morning, we had the funeral of another member of the congregation, and Jerry Martin passed away this week. And of course, that won't be the last, and there will be much more life to the congregation in many different ways. But it made me think as I was getting ready to give this fireside chat and get bulletins out and things to people. It reminds me of just the continuous nature of God's presence and creation in the world. I was looking at some information from Chad Bird talking about how God continued to work the creation, pointing to the fact that the seventh day of creation in the account of Genesis doesn't have that kind of typical ending that the first 6 days do, that there's the beginning and morning, or evening and morning the first day or second day or whatever, but that just never occurs with the seventh day. The fact that God is still in the work and the process of, in a sense, creating and working and doing, which is where really this thought was going. Because in Genesis chapter 1, when it says that God created, the word that is there is the word bara in Hebrew. And one of the things we miss when we are as North Americans reading a Bible in any form of translation in English, which comes all from the Hebrew or the Greek, unless we study deeper, we miss all the beautiful nuances and the beautiful things that are in Scripture for us to hear, including how different languages have intentions with words. That's why I always tell people I pay attention to words and try to keep digging into the words because there's more to them than we ever really probably know. Uh, One of the things of the Greek language I know is there's something called an aorist tense. When words are used in aorist tense, it's a past action that has continuous effect, and that has that sense of it's going on. It happened, but it's still going on, and in effect, the same happens as well in Hebrew. That it's a word that happens in a moment, but has a continuing and lasting and going on effect, as if it's still in process and still in this happening event. And the word bara is one of those that God created. But when I look at the world today, it reminds me that so often people think that God seems to have abandoned the world, or God doesn't seem to care. We always want to take God and ask Him, why don't you just fix things? Why aren't you doing things? And the fact is, He is continuously a part of this for us and with us. And that's the part I think most of us miss, is we misunderstand how He's with us because we want Him to fix things as we want them fixed. But in fact, He already has fixed them through Christ and the crucifixion and resurrection, and He's still working to renew us today. But it comes as we step closer to Him. We get rid of more of ourselves to open the door for Him so that He can come and fill us and continue to do the action of creation and renewing and restoring in us today. And I think that's really kind of where I was thinking with this thought for you on this beautiful, rainy, sunny. You can see the sun kind of come up and go down as I'm looking out the window here. Rain falling on and off throughout the day, and all the plants beginning to bud and grow. And actually, it's interesting. You look one minute, and you look and you see a tree, and you go, "Oh, there's little buds." The next day, you look, and it's covered with leaves, and you don't know how it happened. The time moves, but God's constantly growing that tree. He's constantly working, just as He does in our life. He does these things where He has an effect, and it has a long term effect for us. It's a continuing and sustaining. And where people have kind of thought somehow that God started the creation going, as one person put it, God's kind of like a cosmic watchmaker. He puts a watch together, He winds it up, He gets it going, and then He leaves it and He walks away from it. That's not the case with the God that we meet in scriptures in the Old Testament and in the New together, and revealed through the gift of Jesus Christ. That God has been constantly and is constantly a part of this world with us and available to us. And the question is, are we seeking Him? And part of that struggle begins to make us wrestle even more, because sometimes we work too hard because we're trying to fill in the blanks instead of letting him reveal himself. Just like the leaves on the trees. They weren't there, then they're buds, then they're leaves. And then they'll grow and the whole tree will grow with them. That's how faith works. But it's an effect that starts and then has a continuous action in all of us. When you feel, even in this Easter season, that there's this hard stuff, there's things going on, there's questions in life, there's challenges in life. Why doesn't God? The answer is He does. The answer is He does, and He is, and He's present. That's the beauty of Easter. It's a season that isn't a day; it's a season. It's a time of the year, but also it's every single time we worship. We gather together on Sundays, in essence, celebrating Easter every single week. The resurrection of Jesus Christ, the overcoming of this world, the newness of a life that's offered by God, and a call to be different in the midst of the world. That's a great gift for all of us who are baptized and are called to be in his presence, to come and stand with him and hear again how he's restoring and renewing and even challenging us so that we might be restored and renewed as well, little by little. A funeral is a tough thing to do sometimes, but the beauty of it, especially at the time of Easter, and I always think about my mom who passed away on Good Friday, the year I went to seminary, that her funeral was surrounded by all the trappings of Easter. The constant reminder, the smell of the lilies, the crosses, the empty crosses, the songs, the hymns, the pieces that remind us that God has triumphed over all of this. And our call is to seek to realize we are people who come always with hands open and out, saying, Lord, help us to understand, help us to come, help us to see. And his promise is, when we come with empty hands, he will fill them. He puts in them bread and wine. He puts in them his word. He does so much stuff by opening doors for us to reach to people and touch other lives and to come. It's just constantly having an effect that's happened in our life and is having a continuous action. Paul's the one who I believe writes it this way, that in a kind of a prayer of blessing, that may God, who has begun a good work in you, see it through to its completion, till it's completely formed and put together. And you and I today, in this Easter day, this day of celebration today, are still in the midst of that work of being completed, brought more and more closer and closer, pushing poisons out of our bodies, taking the warping and transforming of our sin and brokenness, and straightening and aligning us back out. All the work and the process that God's doing to invite us to come and experience what he has waiting for us forever now in this world today. It's a hard process, though. And if you've ever been to a doctor's office, a shot always hurts. Taking pills isn't exactly the best. Surgeries are tough, but you know what? The great healer, the great physician, Jesus Christ, when he works on us, it seems to hurt too, but the outcome is life and healing and a restoration. So I hope today, as you are in the midst of your life still today, in your pilgrimage, in your walk, because your time has not yet come, that you would continue to look for all the beauties of the world, that you would realize that God is still working and actively seeking in you to have you experience him in a new and bolder way, that he makes himself available always through word and through worship and through sacraments. He comes and calls us to gather together as his people, to be reassured and strengthened and held together, and that he has, without question, completed the work for us. It is finished, Jesus declares. And so we, in turn, declare, he is risen. He is risen indeed. I look forward to seeing you in worship. I look forward to having you continue to come more and more back into the worship space as we open up more and more. But I pray above all that you're growing, you're learning, you're studying, you're seeking, and you're finding that in the midst of even these difficult days, that God's present for you and that he's overcome it all. God bless you. Happy Easter.